All right. Welcome. Oh, wait a second. Welcome to Behind Them Sticks, episode, I believe it's like 33 or something, man. I've been putting out episodes left and freaking right ever since I started doing this. I'm actually going to be taking my first week off here, not next week, but the week after. So I'm really excited to get out of town and do some fun stuff. But I tell you what, thanks everybody that comes by to watch this episode. It means a whole lot to me. Absolutely. Please be sure to do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this out to your friends, family members, learn a little bit about the people that you follow on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. I'm here to just talk to people and get to know who is out there. But anyways, feel free to speak up in the chat if you would like to. I'd be more than happy to conversate with you while we are doing our thing here. And Steve would be more than happy to holler at you guys while you're in the chat or whatnot. But yeah, welcome to the show. I got my guest today, Mr. Sergeant Steve. What's cracking, brother? How you doing today, my man?
Pretty good. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Just kicking back, talking to all sorts of different people around the world about gaming. I can't be mad at that. And, you know, I mean, some people would call that the life, and I know I'm calling it the life, so it is what it is.
Pretty nice.
But anyways, my man, what gaming and social media platforms are you on so people can check you out, see what you're all about, and also maybe even game with you? Hit them with it.
Sure. I mean, I'm on Xbox and PlayStation. I'm also, I live stream on Twitch sometimes. I haven't been live streaming much over the past month, but I've been working on beating a lot of games, like backwards compatible type of stuff. So I haven't been live streaming it as much. I'm also on Twitter as well. Not on Facebook. I used to be like years ago, but whenever I discovered Twitter, I pretty much left Facebook behind. So.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. That's what's up, man. But let me know, what have you been playing as of lately? There's been a lot of games kind of coming out, and you know, there's a lot to play coming up. So I'm just kind of curious what you've been up to.
Well, I finished Dying Light 2 and I played through it. I actually put together I put together a lot of footage.
Nice.
For the video. I didn't do all that extra content that they say equals 500 hours.
Oh, of course.
I kept it pretty tight and I focused on the campaign so I could put together a YouTube video because I wanted to compare Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2, and there are noticeable differences. After that, of course, I switched to Assassin's Creed because I've never played the first one before. You know, I played the later ones. I played like Black Flag 4, I think it is, or Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. It's a mouthful.
Yeah,
I played from then on, but I haven't played the original Assassin's Creed games. And so I wanted to start at the beginning and kind of get a feel for what the franchise used to be. Because, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, Assassin's Creed isn't what it used to be. It used to be great. Now it's garbage. And I kind of wanted to understand the viewpoint of those people. So I'm going back and playing all the original games.
You know, from what I hear from a lot of people is that the newer Assassin's Creeds are more like a Witcher kind of game.
Yeah, and it feels like that.
And the older Assassin's Creed are very stealth. Like, you get caught, you lose. You gotta redo that part of the mission or whatnot.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go gung-ho and just murder everybody wide in the open. You know, like, you know, certain spots you might be able to get away with that, but Assassin's Creed was about being an assassin.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel that's probably the reason that a lot of people are frustrated about it. I know D that I had from GRG, she came on and that was one of her gripes, as well as that it felt too much like The Witcher. So
yeah.
I feel you might run into that while playing it. You might feel that same way, possibly.
Well, you know that Assassin's Creed was basically a spiritual successor of Prince of Persia.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're very similar in the way that they...
Well, and they were looking at how they could, you know, they were looking at how they could forward the Prince of Persia, franchise, because they didn't want to leave it behind, but it eventually became Assassin's Creed, and now they're coming up with more Prince of Persia games. So it kind of feels like if they do it right, they can appease both the old Assassin's Creed fans and the newer ones. But they have to really listen to what people want.
Yeah, the cool thing about Prince of Persia is you could like rewind time and stuff like that in that game. But that game I remember had really like, glorious big old, buildings and stuff like that. And that's what I kind of mean when I say like they look kind of similar when you say something like that, because they go back into this like ancient history and you're reliving it. And so totally get that. I see where you're coming from, and that's what's up. That's awesome. Any other games that you're playing?
I have been playing Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Again, going to the backwards compatible games. I have tons that I've bought on sale, and I'm just trying to work my way through them because there are newer games that I can buy, but a lot of these older games I just never had the chance to play, especially when I was in the Army. I was always, working or doing something. So I just want to take time to actually go back and play through all these backwards compatible games that people loved and enjoyed so much.
Oh man. Yeah, I've been kind of doing that myself, but I've been buying full on old consoles and everything.
Yeah.
I've been going a little crazy with my nostalgia and letting the wallet just kind of fly in all different directions. It feels really good until I look back and see that I have a massive pile, and I keep growing my backlog, but I'm not really doing a whole lot to tackle my backlog, especially with new games coming out. Like Dying Light just came out and I just bought that game, but I bought like 10 other games for like my Sega Saturn, Sega CD, Genesis, Nintendo, Dreamcast, and all that.
You just got to rotate them out. You finish a big game on a PlayStation 5 or the Series X or S, and you just okay, now I'm going to take some time for a Sega Saturn game or PlayStation 2 or a Dreamcast or whatever it is, and you just rotate the games. I don't like that.
Yeah, I just need a little bit better management with my time with that stuff. That's for sure.
Right. I get it.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out, brother. But so why? So you went into the military, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your service. Appreciate that. Were you were big into gaming before that though? Because from what you told me back in the green room, is that you started on the 2600 Atari. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that experience and maybe try to compare it to the way you feel now about video games.
Well, I mean, when my kids ask me about this, I pretty much tell them the same thing. You got to start young. And I started because my parents had an Atari 2600. They bought it in the 70s, like the late 70s, before I was born. And then, it's like that was the gaming console that I had whenever, me and my sister wanted to play video games. And of course, all the neighborhood kids were cool and had the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I'd cry myself to sleep at night, but, whatever. No, but the Atari 2600, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't Nintendo. And, it's interesting to see how there's always been, essentially, there's been like two big sides for gaming. Back in the 80s, it was, it was Nintendo and Sega. And it didn't matter if it was the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo, the Sega Master System or the Sega Genesis. They were always essentially two competing sides. And then, of course, you have PlayStation and Xbox now. And it feels kind of like, some of the games get away a little bit from focusing on fun, and they worry more about graphics and frame rates and all this other stuff, And I mean, I'm still very much into gaming, but it's much less about just a pastime, and especially because gaming has become so much more mainstream. Back then it was just for kids. I mean, they're like, oh, kids, kids play video games. But now, I mean, you have 50, 60, even 70-year-olds playing video games. Families can experience video games together. So I feel even more strongly about video games than I did when I was a kid, just because of how much they've grown and how much they've evolved,
Yeah, man. I mean, they've grown so much if you think about just the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so impatient now when I go back and play like my old disc games. Like the cartridge games have always been fast.
Yeah.
You know, Nintendo, Genesis, 64, or that's Nintendo, but you know, just the cartridge games has always been pretty quickly. But moving with like the PlayStation 1 games or PS2 games, some, you know, 360 or original Xbox games, PS3 games. Oh man, PS3, I tell you what, man, I've recently purchased a PS3 just to kind of go back and be able to play some of my old favorite football games because they don't make them like they used to.
Are you talking like NCAA?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
You
I knew
already
it.
know. You already know. So
Yep.
yeah, so I went to go play an old NCAA football game, and like you switch to like, you know, you're customizing your character to get ready to do a road to glory or whatnot, and
Yeah.
every time I switch something in the menu, like I want a different wristband, different color wristband. There
Yeah.
is a load in between each time you switch something. So
Yep.
creating your character went from what it'd be on a newer console, like maybe like 5 minutes or
Yeah.
you know 10 minutes, to what took me like a half hour to go through, just because I'm like, no, that helmet's stupid. Oh crap. Now I gotta, you know, wait for a load. Oh, that helmet sucks too. Oh, I'm back on the same helmet I just looked at.
Yeah.
Damn it. Like it just takes so long. But
Well,
like
that's because
game
the
is so
Blu-ray
much fun,
discs, though. That's because the PS3 had a Blu-ray disc, but it takes time for it to pull it from the disc.
Fair enough.
And that was the first system that had Blu-ray discs.
Yeah.
If you remember, Sony was
Cheapest
stingy and
Blu-ray.
they kept it off the Xbox. The Xbox 360 had a what was it?
Yeah, that high
disc or
def.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the separate drive that ended up being completely useless. Like,
Yeah.
not
And then
very
Best
long
Buy
after
is
it was
selling
out.
those movies. They're selling those movies for like 50 cents a piece or something when they went out. It was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Oh, it was awful. It was
Yeah.
it was awful. Someday those things will be expensive to buy because of vintage people,
Yeah.
like myself. But but I mean, it kind of is what it is. But it sucks that
It might be
that
faster if you had it digital because it doesn't have to
yeah, I
pull
don't.
from the disc.
Yeah, you're right, because it doesn't have to deal with that disc. But like, yeah, I got the disc version of that game, and it is, you know, it's slower than molasses. But once I get
Yeah.
into the game and I'm actually playing the game, it's freaking awesome.
Well, and
really
with
good.
PlayStation 3 back then, they didn't put every single game digital. They just didn't do it.
Right.
You know, it's like for the longest time, Metal Gear Solid 4 wasn't digital. And then ironically, that was the last PlayStation Plus game they gave away for the PS3.
Yeah, PlayStation's always been pretty big about the physical copies, and they're starting to kind of, or not kind of, but they're completely leaping forward into digital now, all the way to the point that they're not even just stuck onto their console anymore. They're moving out of the console only space into computers, and I assume they're going to be on phones and everything like that more easily than it is right now, because you can stream your PS5 or 4 to your phone now, but you have to be like on the same network. And I believe I believe that's correct. You either have to be on the same network, but I know for sure your PlayStation has to be on.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
But the Xbox it was kind of weird. The Xbox does something similar, but like it will show that it's in standby at home, so it doesn't look like it's on, but it's actually on.
Well, just
It's a really
because
cool feature.
xCloud needs to check with your console to see what your progress is in the game, and then you're playing it off of their servers, and it's updating your progress on your phone based on how far you got on your console at home.
Yeah, and they are ahead of the curve with that. I mean, obviously, people like Stadia have. Well, I guess that's different though, because the whole streaming games is a little bit different than running it directly from your console.
Yeah.
Which is totally different communication. And actually, I feel like that's probably harder to do. Like, just because you're relying on one console and then it going to a network and then it,
Yeah.
it showing onto your phone at the same time. And
Yeah.
oh man, I mean, I used to piss my lady off all the time. I'd be at work and I'd be on break, and I would hop onto Immortal Phoenix Rising and kick her off of Hulu or something like
Oh
that.
my
So
God.
she
Yeah.
hated that.
Surprised she didn't kick you out of the house.
Oh, right. But but anyways, fantastic answer for that. I want to know, is there a point in time where you were like, I want to take what I'm doing and make content out of it because I want people to see what I'm doing? Can you give me a little bit of insight into why you decided to make a Twitch, why you decided to make a YouTube and all that stuff? And you're doing what a lot of people don't do. You're using your name. You're just flat out with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's, I think everybody's trying to find their place in content creation, and it's hard because you have some people that are like the PlayStation guy Mystic. I mean, Mystic is simple, but everybody knows Mystic, and he's a real chill guy. And then you got other guys that are PlayStation fanboys that some of them make good videos like MBG, some of them make they're flip-flopping back and forth like Crap Gamer, and it's kind of like, oh my God. But watching those types of guys, it's like you see the things they do right and the things they do wrong. And I'd been watching them maybe a year before I decided to be a content creator. And I was like, you know what, I'm real passionate about gaming, and I'm a smart guy, so I said I can figure it out, and this is something I'd like to do, and so I kind of figured out like where I stood on like whether I wanted to be news only or game reviews. And at first I was all about the game reviews, but a lot of times, unless you're a big outlet, people don't really care.
Right.
So I started to where I would kind of have some game reviews, but I would also talk about like developments within a company, the direction of the company, stuff like that, because people want to talk about that too, and they want to see other people who are into content creation talking about like the future of Ubisoft, or how Take-Two Interactive is completely neglecting single player, stuff like that. They want to see that in videos because they want to hear other people's opinions on it. So that's kind of the direction that my channel has taken over the last few months. Twitter was the same thing. I just wanted to get out there and interact with people, and I kind of figured it would be important to do it as far as content creation goes, because you want to have a Twitter account, so if someone watches your video, you can interact with them and build upon what you've established in that video.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're just tackling it from two different angles right now.
Yeah.
Because for me, I was just like, I don't know about Twitch. I don't know, trying to get on there, because that's a rough place to try to get launching on.
Yeah, well, I don't look so good in a bikini, so I don't think Twitch is going to be something that's my main pull,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, what was like going back into your history of gaming a little bit, and let's go a little further back before you even started like creating content. Let me ask you, what was a memorable moment that you had that kind of lifted your spirits within gaming?
It was when me and like three of my friends pretty much played like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. I think it was WCW NWO Revenge. It was a huge wrestling pay-per-view on, and we were over there to watch it anyway. But before that, after that, we're playing Nintendo 64 pretty much for like 18 hours solid.
Right.
And my friend's sister, she helped us out and went and got like 30 tacos and bean burritos from Taco Bell. So that and Mountain Dew and Nintendo 64 for like 18 hours. It was solid though, because you remember how GoldenEye kind of established the console multiplayer thing going on. It was before even Halo. And Halo was a big part of the whole couch co-op and multiplayer, local multiplayer thing. But before that, it was GoldenEye that really set the bar.
Yeah, GoldenEye. What is it called? Perfect Dark with the
and the funny thing
gun.
about Perfect Dark is that the same developers for GoldenEye made Perfect Dark.
Right.
And they said it was phenomenal, but on the Nintendo 64, it just ran so damn slow. Yep. They said it was just the hardware. If they would have had better hardware, then it would have run a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That I mean Nintendo's always kind of been like that with their hardware though,
Because
just a
they didn't want to
little.
let go of the cartridges.
Right. And I mean the cartridges were awesome. I mean, you can't lie. The cartridges were dope. They're very reliable compared to getting a scratch on your disc or something like that. You could have your kiddo just throw in that game 6 or 7 times, blow on it a couple times and throw it into the chamber and it's good to go.
Well, and then you also had the bad thing about them using cartridges is you had the PlayStation 1, which not only plays games but it plays music CDs. And you know how hot music was in the 90s.
Right.
So it's
Twisted
like
Metal was
if
dope.
yeah, it's like if you're gaming and you just don't want to game anymore, you just want to chill, you can put in a music CD and there you go, you have, a music player.
But did you ever take the disc out of the PlayStation and put it into your CD player?
I never owned a PlayStation when I had friends that did.
Man, yeah, I used to take Twisted Metal out of the PlayStation, put it in my CD player, and it'd have music from the game that I was able to sit and listen to. And I thought that was really cool. That's why I mentioned Twisted Metal when you were talking about music and whatnot.
Yeah,
but yeah,
cool.
but you're right. It was like, it did play your CDs that you would put in to like listen to music. And didn't it have like the little like colorful thing on it that Xbox had as well, where it's like a little screensaver essentially, and it played like the the swiggles all around the screen and whatnot each time it hit like a beat. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, going right back to that nostalgia point, I'd want to touch on your favorite, most beloved console of all time.
That's difficult. I mean, it's I want to say the Super Nintendo, but to be honest, it's actually the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
Because the Super Nintendo was 16-bit and it was 2D. Nintendo 64 is the first Nintendo console that really tried 3D. And I know PlayStation 1 did it also, but I never owned a PlayStation 1, so my memories were all about the Nintendo 64. I mean, it's like I would have to say GoldenEye, just all the stuff that it let you do and how much fun it was. And then of course Mario Kart 64 was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's
Absolutely
still
amazing.
playable today, like easily, and it looks good still. Like it's as good as it gets when it comes to like replay value. And that game right now is like going for $60 at like a vintage store or something like that. Maybe even more depending on where you like to shop. But yeah, where I work, they're selling it at like I want to say it was either $60 or $80 for Mario Kart, and then for Mario 64, it was like $70, like fucking PlayStation games right now. But like, I mean, gaming is bigger right now than it's ever been, and it's really exciting to see so many people into it. And it's sad to see some of these prices rise on these old vintage things. Sure, it's sad, but that also tells you the value that's within it. And it's very, very lucrative right now if that's something that you want to get into. And that's why I'm collecting stuff. I'm just like, let me get mine if everybody else is going to run out and get theirs. But one thing, if you don't want to go out and get a bunch of old ass games, essentially, emulation is becoming massive right now too. I mean, they still have some mapping things to work out with like controls and stuff like that with certain things, and also licensing issues is like massive. Like you go to any YouTube thing and type in emulation, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna be like, here's how I did it, but I can't tell you where I got it from.
Well, they don't want to be sued because you look at Nintendo's suing everybody. It's like if a homeless guy was painting, Super Mario and Luigi under an overpass, Nintendo would want to sue him,
Oh yeah.
That's how ridiculous they are.
They're suing their own they're suing their own crowd for just like having like there's a big YouTuber, really big like YouTuber or Twitch guy or something like that, had like 6-figure like followers.
Yeah.
and whatnot, and like he has like a bunch of like subpoenas or whatever the hell you want to call it for like I'm not sure if it went as far as subpoena, but like they're pretty much saying like we need to erase your channel, and
Yes.
and that dude does like nothing but support Nintendo. I mean, that's how much of an asshole that company is, and how much
Yeah.
they care so much about their brand, they won't let anybody even partially damage it or even get into the get into a space where they could possibly harm their name at all.
Yeah, and you know, because Nintendo is so big in Japan, I'm sure there's laws in Japan that protect them from being picked up by foreign companies.
Oh, for sure.
You know, so
For sure.
they're kind of untouchable. You know,
they are, and they know it.
because the people, you know, it's like people who support Nintendo, and I'm not knocking them, but the people love their stuff so much they're willing to pay $60 for, you know, a port of an old game, and no questions asked. They're not even angry about it. They're like, thank you for making this, you know, and taking the money out of my wallet without me knowing, but it's fine because you're Nintendo. That's how they are. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah, and they rarely have like sales that last very long. Most of their sales are fairly, in and out. Like,
Yeah,
get
I've
it
heard
this
that
week
too.
or don't get it at all, or even buy it now or else we're taking it off the store.
Yep. Like they did with the Super Nintendo Mini and the Nintendo Mini. They just
Yeah.
stopped making them and they're like, oh, we're done. And it's like, wow, way to, you know, give everyone a little taste, and then the price goes through the roof.
Facts. Yeah. It's pretty wild, but they get away with it just because they got that tenure. They know people love them and know them. They're synonymous. Like
They'd have to stop making games for 10 years just so PlayStation could catch up. That's how far ahead they are, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they want to talk like PlayStation and Xbox wants to sit here and talk about exclusives. They're not touching Nintendo ever when it comes
but
to
Nintendo's
that.
been faithful to their exclusives though, you know?
They have. I mean, what exclusive that blew up did they give up on?
I mean, there was a Mario game for the phone, but it wasn't like a Super Mario Brothers game. It was like Mario Runner or something like that, but it wasn't an official, you know, one of their actual games. It was something like an off version of Super Mario, but it was something real minor. You know, it's none of their big stuff.
I know other than like other than rare games, like I don't see a whole lot of IP that they were willing to let slide by. Like they let Banjo Kazooie and like Conkers just kind of go off with Rare.
But those weren't their legacy IPs though.
No, and no, they weren't. But what I'm saying is that they were big. They were really big, and they can flex so much that they're willing to just be like, well, we don't need those guys. We already got our core. We're fine.
Well, and it's like, you know, you ask someone on the street, say, hey, when you think of Nintendo, who comes to mind? Oh, Mario and Luigi, you know?
Right.
You ask someone about Xbox, who comes to mind? Master Chief. Oh, you know, PlayStation, who comes to mind? Let me see. Kratos, Aloy, Ellie, Joel, Nathan Drake. It's like, it doesn't have one person that it gets behind. It has like 20 of them, you know?
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe though, and you can bite my head off if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like PlayStation's head characters aren't as easy to just list off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Like Halo, like Xbox, you think of Gears, Halo, Fable.
Yeah.
With Nintendo, I mean, you just listed off several, but with but you just go up to your random person that's played PlayStation, but they don't follow like all the stuff on Twitter or YouTube.
Probably because they're casuals. Call of Duty,
sure.
FIFA, Madden, you know.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is like you might get like a Kratos.
Yeah.
Out of somebody, but like Joel and Ellie and stuff, they're still really fresh characters. Yes, they came yes, they came
they're not
from
legacy
like PS3,
characters.
but yeah, they're not like 25-year like they're not as old as even Master Chief is.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. So they still got some time. Like once they hit like like maybe their third or fourth game, then maybe like, you know, they will be plastered on that billboard for we are the PlayStation characters, you know? Interesting.
I don't think Joel's coming back.
Well, obviously not Joel, but
Well,
but
here's the thing,
maybe though they might
there's a
want
20-year period.
do a little
There's a
Dexter
20-year
kind of
period
thing.
from when his daughter died to when The Last of Us Part 1 started, where he said he was doing a lot of bad things. They could actually bring him back as a villain.
Ooh, yes. They could bring him back to the part where you kill where you kill what's her name's dad. Can't think of the name off the top of my head.
Surgeon. Yeah, Abby's dad.
Yeah, Abby's dad. So, yeah, that would be really interesting and graphic.
Well, I know they're working on Stray Cross right now, though. That's their working title. Naughty Dog has been working on it for some years. They said it's a sci-fi game, has an African-American guy that he's in his 40s. There was a character on The Walking Dead, and I said this before on Twitter, the Tyrese guy, like season 3, season 4, whenever they're in the prison. I said he would be the ideal guy if they were using someone around that time to build that character around, because he's recognizable.
Okay.
You know, because it's like if he's existing in a sci-fi world, you're either going to have a small guy or you're going to have a guy that's very formidable. You know, and I think going with a more formidable character would make a lot of sense, because you want to have a character that you feel can exist in that type of world. You know, he's strong enough pretty much to endure whatever they're going to throw at him.
I'm trying to think of who this person is, like that you're talking about. You're saying the Tyrese person from The Walking Dead, and
Like
I'm sorry,
3
but I gotta look that up real quick because
he was whenever they were all in the prison. I think he was the one that discovered the bodies.
Oh yeah, he's the dude that was always sweating.
Yeah, I mean it's Georgia though. I mean everybody's sweating.
Yeah, but
You know, it's like you get out of the shower, 30 seconds you're sweating. You know, I went to basic training down there. It's ridiculous. It's hot as hell. It's like it's hot as hell in April up here. You know, in Wisconsin, it's snowing in April. Down there, I mean, everyone's breaking a sweat and about to die from heat exhaustion. You know.
That's specifically how I know him though is the sweaty dude.
Yeah, right.
Because he was always just hot as hell.
I mean, there could be a lot of sweaty dudes. You're like, oh, the sweaty dude. Who? Norman Reedus? No, the other guy. Oh, you talking about his brother? No, the other guy. You know, they wouldn't know who you're talking about.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's how I refer to him. I guess nobody would know. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting back to it. So that was the most memorable moment and stuff like that. We just got off course and whatnot. But
right.
anyways, I like to do my little game in which I throw out different consoles. And
Sure.
I'm gonna mix it up this time and throw out different consoles and also throw out different throw out different developers and publishers. And I want you to do your best to think of the first game that comes to your mind when I do so.
Sure.
Okay? So the first one I'm gonna toss out is Sega Dreamcast.
I would say House of the Dead 3.
Ooh. Okay. House of the Dead, really good. Really good. PlayStation 2.
Scarface, The World Is Yours.
Oh man, I love you for saying that. Yes.
Yep, I love that game.
Yes, it was so good, man. It was so good. Just running around, you shoot people, it tells you where you shot them at.
Yep.
The
remaster got canceled.
Yeah, for 360.
Yep.
Yeah, that was sad. Was there supposed to be one for PlayStation 2? I never looked at, or PlayStation 3. All I knew was the 360 one.
Yeah, I think there was possible, but it got scrapped.
Yeah, I remember. I think you're the one that hopped into my comments and said that to me or whatnot. And
Yeah.
I looked it up and I was like, hell nah, man.
I researched the hell out of gaming, so I do a lot of digging.
Definitely, man. You got to do some digging to know that. Next one I want to do is gonna be. Can I do a hard one?
Go ahead.
Sega Saturn.
I would have to say Doom 2 because I borrowed my friend's Sega Saturn and I played the shit out of Doom 2.
Okay.
You know? Love Doom
Yeah,
2.
you didn't slip at all right there.
No.
All right. Nintendo GameCube.
Uh, there was like a Road to WrestleMania game that came out for the Nintendo GameCube. I remember I played it a lot when I was in Iraq. One of the guys in my platoon bought one, and we'd play the hell out of it. It was cool. You know, the controller was a little weird, but
Yeah, the controller is really weird.
I know everyone would say Super Mario Sunshine, but I'm like, it was that Road to WrestleMania game we were playing all the time. So
Sunshine was pretty dope, but yeah. I mean, I liked the GameCube. I thought it had a pretty versatile library of different kind of games. My favorite game on it was Eternal Darkness. That game goes for like $100 now. Crazy.
I believe it.
Yeah. But let's see. The next one I want to reach out and say is going to be Activision.
You mean the first game that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, everyone would say Call of Duty, but I actually want to say Prototype.
Prototype, okay.
Because I know it's on a lot of people's minds. Prototype was so underrated. You know, it's either Prototype or a True Crime. You know,
Crime. That's
both underrated franchises. They need to come
my
back.
shit. I love True Crime. The music in that game, the fighting, the slow motion shooting towards people, that was like Max Payne ish.
Yeah, it was
like,
badass.
Like they straight robbed Rockstar.
Yeah, well, Rockstar was pretty powerful, so they needed people to fight against like that. So that's cool. You know, they could take the heat.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. Well, it just pushed Rockstar to be better because I feel like that game came out between. I could be wrong, but I feel like it came out between Vice City and San Andreas.
Well, are you talking about Streets of LA?
Yeah.
It actually, I think it came out around the same time Vice City was released. I don't know if it was before or after. Might have been after, because I remember the first news that broke of it was when I was on my first deployment. It was probably, I want to say it was like November of 01 when we started hearing about it from the Game Informer magazine. So it could have released right after Vice City. So you might be right. It's something I have to look up later.
Interesting. All right. Let's see if I can reach in the bag. I'm going to go with 989 Sports.
I know I've played 989 Sports on my cousin's Sega Genesis. I couldn't name a game, obviously. But I remember it would always go at the beginning 989. I remember that, you know. But I mean, I know we played so many Madden games, I couldn't name the year, you know.
Well, Madden was in the EA category, so they didn't. So they didn't mess with that.
Yeah.
989
was, I didn't know.
All right. Well, I'll throw a couple out there. Game Day. NFL Game Day. Yep. And then also Game Breaker. With the college is the college football version of it.
Yeah, where like you're playing on street courts and stuff.
No,
is that the one? No, that's
no. It's just a regular football game.
I remember there was an NBA game where you played on the streets. You didn't play on the courts. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like you played on street courts.
Yeah, that was NBA Street and NBA and then one, and then they had Ballers and yeah, they had a few different. That was really popular back then.
Too bad it went away, you know?
EA Big was really big into like crazy games like that. They had FIFA Street, NFL Street, NBA Street, SSX Tricky and stuff like that. They had some pretty legendary games.
Probably before Andrew Wilson got there. Because that guy's like, he's like poison to EA. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, what they do with their football games at this point in time is just nauseating for me, because I mean, as I was telling you earlier, I was playing NCAA football 2012 on my PS3. I went out and got a PS3 so I can get good classic sports games, and also some PS3 games that I missed out on that are still fairly decent to play. Yeah. But anyways, back to the game. Next one, PS4, go.
First game I think of?
Yep.
I would probably say Killzone Shadowfall because it was the first really big exclusive to launch for the system. A lot of people don't like it, but I actually played through it several times, and it's not a bad game. It's just people were expecting it to, I don't know, reinvent Killzone, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know too much about it because PS3 and PS4 are two generations that I skipped. I was strictly Xbox throughout that
And
time
I
period.
was the same way with PlayStation. It's like I skipped the original Xbox and the 360 altogether. It
Okay.
was like a couple months ago, I actually acquired an Xbox 360 and I went and bought like 30 of the, the racing games and stuff that's not backwards compatible.
Right.
So I can actually play them.
It was a good console. It was a
Yeah.
really good console. I'm actually kind of enjoying this PS3 a little bit, even though I could really feel the age on it. And since
And the controller is so small.
so small, dude, it's so
Hey,
tiny. I put my this is how big. I'm not sure
I
if you
use
can
a
see my
DualShock
hands.
4.
Oh my
You can
goodness.
use a DualShock 4 to play a PS3.
Really?
You just got to look it up because I actually use a DualShock 4 to play on my PS3.
That'd probably be a better idea because that thing is
I know. The
like the
controller's
size
too
of my
small.
hand.
Yep.
One hand.
Yeah, so just look up how to do a DualShock 4 controller for your PS3 and you'll be straight.
I don't know if Matt Likes Games is watching this or is going to watch this,
No,
but that
PlayStation encourages it.
but
Yeah.
he's a big guy. He's like 6'11".
He'd probably like a DualShock 4 more than a PS3.
And I'm pretty sure I think he had a PS3. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm thinking a little too much. But yeah, I couldn't imagine him playing that game just one hand.
I'm sure the DualShock 3 in his hand probably looks like this. It's like little bitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those old like Dreamcast VMUs in his hand or something.
He
like
has to
that.
use like two pencils to press the buttons because his
Right.
fingers are too big. Yeah.
Got them thumbs.
Yep.
All right, and Xbox One.
I would have to say Forza Horizon 2 because it's the reason I bought an Xbox One. Well, it's the game I came to Xbox One for because Drive Club dropped the ball and kind of, just completely let me down. And after Drive Club, I was like, what the hell? And I was so disappointed because I love racing games. And I had a friend that said, hey, man, you should get an Xbox One and Forza Horizon 2. And I watched the videos on YouTube and I was like, wow, this game is crazy. This is exactly what I want. So it was the game that motivated me to buy an Xbox One.
Gotcha. Well, let's leave that game where it stands. That was pretty fun to figure out some of the things that first come to your mind when you think about these consoles and devs and publishers and whatnot. I've been hearing you say a lot about racing games. Are you like a big time racer? And what are like maybe a few different racing games that are like goated for you?
I love racing games. I've never owned like the racing wheel. I use a controller. It's straight. I play everything with the controller, no joysticks or any of that shit. But I'd say, as far as racing games go, I'd say that Burnout Paradise is kind of a fun pick up and play arcade game. It's pretty straight, but I also like the dirt racing games, not Dirt 5 as much, just because it felt like it was forgetting its identity. But Dirt 4 is a hell of a lot of fun. And then, of course, Wreckfest. Those are pretty phenomenal games. But there's so many racing games. It depends on on what you like more. I would say if I had to pick one to be, the GOAT, I would probably say Forza Horizon or Forza Motorsport 7. Forza Horizon 3 was solid, but I loved Forza Motorsport 7 better. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I just love those games.
I mean, yeah, I hear everybody talk about Horizon 3, especially on the way up to Horizon 5. Everyone was just saying, man, I'd love to have that map back. It was so good. Everything was really good. The DLC was fire for it and all that stuff. So really
And
interesting.
the huge lap, the Goliath you got to run is much more open. So it lets you run top end for miles.
That sounds dope.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the fastest car I'm running like 285 on that lap. And you could get up to that speed because it'd have a straightaway that's like 2.5 miles long.
Got it.
Yeah.
So cool. Those are a few of your favorite racing games. But if you were to pick three games just from this last year, and these can be any type of games, what three games would be your favorite that you played that came out in 2021? And then give me the best one of the three if you can think of it.
I mean, we've had a lot of good games. I don't think we've had really many phenomenal games. But I mean, if I was just picking the best out of the past like 12 months, I mean, I would probably say Dying Light to Forza Horizon 5, just because it's a Forza title. Maybe Far Cry 6. Not so much based on the campaign, but the DLCs that came after have been really solid, you know?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I really enjoyed that game. I beat the hell out of it. I couldn't stop playing that game until I beat it when it came out.
Did you get the glitch whenever you're at that hotel? Nope. I had a glitch that wouldn't let me progress.
Nope.
I had to restart the game like 3 times.
I didn't have any problems with that game whatsoever throughout the whole run. It was fantastic.
Yeah, the DLC's solid, so check it out if you haven't, obviously.
I haven't got a chance to check out the DLC yet. I think I know what glitch you're talking about because I had a friend actually reach out to Ubisoft and get directions on how to get through a certain part of a level because he got stuck.
Because it would freeze completely. Like the frame rate would drop until 0 and you wouldn't be able to move. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And it's aggravating when you're trying to get through a difficult level.
Right. Fair enough. So those are your three games, or kind of, because you listed 2 in 2021, and then you said Dying Light.
Oh yeah, that came out in 2022. Shit, I can't. Off the top of my head, I don't even know. I mean, I guess you could say Halo Infinite. But the multiplayer was hot for like the first 60 days, but it just kind of turned to shit. You know?
Well, it really got repetitive, and I feel like that is the issue. It's like a lot of us were told how many maps were going to be and what was all going to be available to play, and then we get it and we're like, all right, well, this is very similar and maybe 2 maps more than what I was playing, or like maybe 3 or 4 maps more, but there's only a few more maps than I had when I was playing the technical preview.
Yeah.
And I played a ton of the technical preview. I like the game, and I'll continue to still be playing the game. Yeah. But my issue is the variety is just very stagnant. Like there's not a whole lot you can do, and with Forge not being around, it makes you know that there's hope, but it's not there yet. It's kind of like it's the same way I feel about Cyberpunk. I want to experience that game because a lot of people loved it, and I think it looks really cool. I'm into those kind of open world games. But when you dangle a carrot in front of me and tell me the Series X patch is coming, I don't want to play you. I don't want to play you at half-ass energy.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to play you in your full, like, it's the same way you'd feel if you brought your car to the car show. You don't want to bring it to the car show all funky and, there's mud all over it and whatnot. You want to bring it out detailed, looking good, ready to go, motors purring, like let's go. And that's how I kind of feel with that game, where it's like, you're kind of giving me half the cookie, but like you told me I could have the whole cookie. I want the whole cookie.
Yep. No, I get it. These game developers, they really need to try to release it in the best possible shape.
For sure.
It feels like it's management's fault because management isn't properly managing the time, the resources. They're just not.
Yeah, when you delay a roadmap, which was based on a delay, it's kind of jarring. It's hard to wrap your head around.
And people lose faith,
Oh, for sure. And with all these games all over the place, and the way Xbox kind of set them up, set themselves up is, you know, if this one doesn't work, we'll have another one here soon.
Yeah.
And it sucks to say it, but until like Halo will be a wave kind of game where it will be a little dry and then it'll be hot. It'll be crazy hot and then
Like
it'll
Destiny.
dry up a little. Yeah, it's essentially becoming a Destiny. Yeah, because it's live service now, right? So it's trying to make its foothold somewhere that it's really hard to make your foothold because I mean, like I said, it's really repetitive right now. But if you look at a lot of live service games, they're all really repetitive for the most part, unless they're looter shooter games.
Yeah.
What's that game that's similar but with portals? Splitgate. Splitgate is really repetitive. Crossfire X, oh my god, like I'm not sure if you turn that game on, but it's like dying already from repetitiveness, and it's only been out for like a day.
Yeah, well, and they were really quiet about that, so it was, the writing was on the wall with that one. Everyone kind of knew it was going to be shit, because it's like, if you have a game that is on fire, like Horizon Forbidden West, you're showing it off all the time. But if your game is garbage, you're not going to talk about it. You're going to shadow drop it for the most part. Now, there are some shadow drops that are probably going to be hot, like when Phil Spencer probably drops GoldenEye this month or next. Everyone's going to be, oh my god, and you know what I'm talking about, right? If he shadow drops that, people are going to be losing their minds. But they almost shadow dropped this. Like what? 100 people knew about this shit. You know, 100 people knew about it.
What makes it even worse is that I heard more about the people that played it and didn't enjoy it than advertising for the game itself.
Because word of mouth is advertising.
Well, right, but I'm saying like the advertising from Xbox or Smilegate or any of these other like I've heard nothing from them, but I've heard plenty of reviewers say, like don't even waste your time, or like the multiplayer is probably going to be very similar to the campaign, and the multiplayer is ass. Like, and I played a little bit of the multiplayer, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm willing to continue to give it, you know, some more time and whatnot. But right now, I'm just like, come on, Xbox, give me a dub, man. I need a dub. Yeah. And like not you spending your money dub. I mean, I know you got money. Everybody in the world knows you got money. But I want to see something like that I didn't expect come out. Like Psychonauts 2 to me was like, this is a dub. That nice.
Was solid. That was pretty solid.
This is a really good game. You know, what's it? Forza Horizon 5 dub, big dub. Halo, like a half dub. Like I'll give it a V at a W. I'll give it like a half of a W, because the campaign was really fun to me, and I enjoyed being part of the technical preview, and then, you know, getting up to 100 on the battle pass was really fun. But now that I got to 100, I really don't have anything to play it for now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
How it is.
I mean, other than playing with a few friends that want to play the game, I'm not turning it on by myself just to play.
Well, and that's probably why Activision resets everyone's rank, like at the end of their season or whatever. For Call of Duty, you know, they keep resetting people's rank, and it pissed me off at first. But then I was like, I guess that makes sense. So you don't just top out like you do in Battlefield. You know, well, you topped out in Battlefield 4 at 140. So it's kind of like, why am I going to keep playing if I topped out? It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, I feel like, well, I know that's what Halo's doing, because they're going to have different battle passes, and you can switch back to an old battle pass if you missed out on it and whatnot, which is really cool. But I just can't wait for that game to be a little bit further on in development and whatnot. But as usual, we got off topic completely.
It happens.
So for this very year, do you have a game that you're looking forward to more than any other?
I would have to say, I mean, it's like I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I don't want to say God of War Ragnarok because that's the proper way to, experience it. I have a PlayStation 4, but it's a slim, so it's weak. Probably Starfield, probably Starfield. Just because it's a brand new IP from Bethesda. It's Xbox exclusive. Yeah, they include PC, but it's not, PlayStation's not in there. So it's technically an Xbox exclusive. And they said you can explore all these planets. I just hope it's not somewhat limited in scope how the Outer Worlds was. If you remember, those planet areas weren't really that big. Wasn't really much you could do. I just hope it's larger in scope, more similar to what Fallout has. Not necessarily that big, but bigger, so you can explore more.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. But like I'm excited for it in a very like shy way because I haven't seen anything on it really other than a woman sitting in a seat getting ready to take off and a few concept pictures and whatnot. And I feel the same way about Redfall too because I'm extremely excited for that because I'm a loot shooter guy. Other than some of the other games I play, I really enjoy games like Borderlands a lot. Like I played the living hell out of Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3 I did a lot, but not near as much as I did on Borderlands 2, and that's my favorite Borderlands game of all time.
Yeah, and that's probably the best one anyway.
Just Handsome Jack's story. He is just too good. He was like the best sarcastic asshole villain that you could get in a goofy setting, but still kind of want to take him serious.
Yeah. It was a good game, definitely.
For sure. So Starfield's the game that you're looking out for. I've heard something from, I think his name is Skolzy. Yeah, Skolzy. Skolzy off of YouTube. I heard something from him saying that there might be a trailer coming out for Starfield sometime soon. I feel like that's kind of easy to say.
Yeah.
With the game coming out this year, like it's gotta have a trailer, but do you think that's something that will be shown here before the summer, or do you think they're gonna wait?
They're gonna show a trailer, maybe drop some info before E3 because they're gonna want, how Xbox pretty much owns E3 right now.
Yep.
They're gonna want Starfield to take front and center at E3. And right next to Starfield, of course, they're going to want Redfall to be there as well. But Starfield is the big emphasis. So I think they're going to want a trailer before that. I would say probably sometime in March. Because they're going to want it halfway through the year because E3's in June.
Whoa, you're saying next month.
Yes. Because they want it halfway through the year leading up to E3, which of course is 3 months into the year. So I would expect it sometime in March because it gives them time to start dropping stuff April, May, and build anticipation for E3. And of course, it not only feeds the hype for Starfield, but for all the other games they're showing at E3 as well.
That's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, that would blow my mind. It can only go, one of two ways: really awesome or really awful. And that Bethesda and Xbox for sure. I mean, Xbox they've been looking at social media. They know what's going on. They know that Halo isn't looking the best right now.
Yes.
And they for sure know that that Crossfire X is just a hot freaking mess. It's sad when Extraction is like doing pretty well in the other two games that were supposed to be first party are like struggling more or less Halo because of they're just not completely done, or not, I shouldn't say done, but not completely prepared for what they told everybody they'd be ready for. So I'm really interested in seeing some, like I said, seeing a win. I need a W from Xbox.
Well, and it doesn't help that PlayStation, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, The other one, it's like the one that just got rated today. I don't remember what it is. It's Forspoken. And then they have the other one that's coming from Tango Gameworks.
Ghostwire.
Yeah, it's like they're going to be landing solid hits. If Xbox is spending all this money on Bethesda, they need everything they drop to be, hitting hard. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to Microsoft, but it matters to the Xbox crowd. It's like they supported Xbox all last generation. And last generation, you had some good games, but for the most part, it was a mess. So you really want to do right by them and have games that other people want to buy an Xbox to play, or if they have a high-end PC, they at least want to be part of the Xbox crowd.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm just excited to see what they're gonna do with Bethesda, because this is their showcase of what they can do after acquiring a studio and stuff like that. And I'm on the edge of my seat, like just rubbing my hands together, especially since it's completely new IP with Redfall and Starfield. I don't have to feel like, oh man, like I missed out on the last Elder Scrolls or something like that. Like I have to go back and play that before I go and play this. Like this is fresh to death, ready to go. Nobody knows anything. You're in the same car seat everybody else is in. And I love that type of excitement. I just really need Xbox to pull it off. And I honestly think they will, because I don't think Phil Spencer is going to stand up to the podium, grab that award from Todd Howard, and then produce some garbage later on in the year after all this hype. Like there's been so much hype around at least Starfield. Redfall has been kind of in and out with hype. Yeah. But Starfield has this like pretty hardcore following already, and they don't have any news out about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm interested.
It's like a lot of people like Bethesda regardless, even before they belonged to Xbox.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think some of that just kind of came with them whenever they purchased Bethesda. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That clout traveled with them.
Yeah.
So that's really good. But moving forward, if you were to go back in time and pick up 2 games that you loved when you were young and bring them up to today's standards, what would those 2 games be, brother?
I mean, obviously Scarface, I think, because
yes,
and it's like I love the voice actor to be kept the same. The same storyline they had in Scarface, The World Is Yours. Don't bring it up to today's standards. Leave it visceral and gritty and offensive, and leave all that shit in it, because that's what makes the game. Where if you mess up, and you're trying to, yes, and the gang members can take your heads off with a chainsaw. Yes, just like in the game. You want it to stay faithful, otherwise, people are gonna be like, "What the hell is this crap?" And then people are gonna be angry that you fucked up a classic.
Right.
Also, I would say, Def Jam Fight for New York.
Ooh, man, have you seen how expensive that game is right now?
Yes, and it would piss off all those people, and the rest of us would be like, "That's right, you shouldn't be charging so much then."
Right.
Yep.
Especially the stores. That's what drives me nuts. Is like, I understand.
The thing is, though, I want to say about Def Jam Fight for New York is I don't want any of today's music in it.
Fair enough.
Keep the music from when that came out.
Oh man, that sounds like a licensing nightmare.
And it might be, but you got smart people in the music business; they can make it work.
Oh yeah, for sure. And maybe you could even, I don't know, like I feel like yeah, there is a creative way to figure it out. Just and it's a cash cow that is just sitting dormant right now. Like a lot of people would love to bring them rappers back out and pound each other. Man, that was so much fun. I used to be Method Man all the time. That was my dude. Joe Budden was pretty dope too.
That was like the coolest game I didn't own myself. Other friends owned it. I played it on their consoles, but I never owned it. I just didn't have money whenever, I wanted to buy it. But it's like, I wanted to buy that. I wanted to buy like Dead to Rights 2. I just never bought some of the games that I wanted because, a single guy is kind of running out of money fast. So when he's buying everything he wants. So
for any
ran out of money, I couldn't buy it. And now, of course, I'm not going to buy it for like $150, $200.
Yeah, I was going to say, to anybody watching, that game currently is going for around $170.
Yeah, I figured. That's the same with the Budokai Tenkaichi 3. It's also like $170.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball game.
Yep. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah.
It's expensive as hell too.
It's absolutely insane. But that kind of is what it is, my man. Let's see. The next one I want to holler at you about is kind of a more serious one. Sure. I want to know what kind of frustrates you within gaming as a whole. If there's anything, I'm sure there is.
I mean, a lot of people are going to say NFTs or microtransactions or shit like that. But something that frustrates me isn't any of that shit. It's more focused, I guess. Rockstar Games, Strauss Zelnick, GTA Online, no single player DLC. That's what frustrates me, because they actually had single player DLC with Franklin and Lamar. There was supposed to be a zombie outbreak in San Andreas, in Los Santos. Trevor was supposed to turn into a zombie. And of course, someone who worked for Rockstar actually dropped all of this online years ago. And they said the reason why they canceled the single player DLC was so that they could reallocate all those resources for GTA Online. So it's like he's choosing either or. If they were dedicating resources to both equally, I wouldn't care. But they're not.
Yikes.
It's like they don't give a shit. Strauss Zelnick lives in his 10,000 square foot apartment. And he might be in the office like 3 hours out of the day. He goes to the sauna. He has his own little fitness instructor and all that shit. He lives the nice life like Bobby Kotick. And he doesn't give a shit about gamers. He just doesn't care. When Rockstar Games was on fire, the Hauser brothers, Laszlo Jones, Leslie Benzies were tearing shit up. And it's not like that anymore. That's what frustrates me. Rockstar Games is not the Rockstar Games they were 20 years ago. Not even 10 years ago.
So does that make you worry about the next iteration in the series?
Yeah, I think, I think Strauss Zelnick is a businessman above all else. I think he knows that they need to get it right. But what I'm afraid of is that the single player campaign is going to be like 20 hours long and they'll have like 60 hours of online content. That's what I'm afraid of, because the shark cards is what drives the profits they make from that game. They want to turn it into Fortnite, essentially, the online component where the map is always evolving. And of course, this leaked also a couple months ago that they were talking about this. They said once Dan Houser left, they scrapped what he was working on for Grand Theft Auto 6 and they completely rebooted it, which he left in 2019. If they rebooted an 8-year game, I mean, you do the math. When is it going to release? At the earliest, 2027. That's at the end of this console generation. So we may not get a Rockstar game that's actually made until the next generation consoles hit. That's frustrating.
Don't say that.
Hey man, I'm just calling it how it is.
Because I really don't want to deal with another GT. I'm not buying it again.
Red Dead Redemption 2. How long did it take them? 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And the family members of the people working there said even though it took 8 years, they had extreme crunch. People were working 60-hour work weeks. And if it took them like 2 months to bring all that stuff out and for everyone to be made aware of this, and finally Rockstar's like, okay, we'll cut down the hours. Now, if they're cutting down the hours and they're going to make them work 40-hour work weeks, an 8-year game is going to take them 10 to 12 years. And when everyone was like, oh, Dan Houser just left because he got tired of gaming. Why a few months later did he start his own game company again? Why? It wasn't because he was tired of gaming. It's because he was tired of the bullshit that was going on at Rockstar Games under Strauss Zelnick, and he left so he could have freedom again. They made the mistake like Bungie. Sold themselves to Activision. Bungie lucked out because they could get out. Rockstar Games can't. For whatever reason, they belong to Take-Two, and Take-Two is running them into the ground. That's what frustrates me. It's stressful because if you hear people talk about Rockstar Games, undoubtedly everyone who is a moderate to serious gamer is going to consider them one of the 5 best studios in the world, no question. But that's because of what they did 15 to 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, it's like, what game have they come out with aside from Red Dead Redemption 2 in the past 5 years? What game?
It's a whole lot of nothing, to
It's
be honest,
online
because
content.
because anything that you think about, like all of their legendary stuff, the Warriors,
Yes.
Bully,
Smuggler's
like
Run, Manhunt, Midnight Club. all
Midnight
that-
Club. Oh man, Dub Edition. Yes,
Yeah.
like the best, like one of the best racing games of all time for me, at least.
Yeah.
With a soundtrack to go with it, that was just phenomenal. But yeah, what have they done other than one big blockbuster after GTA 5?
Well, and the thing that pisses me off is rather than make any more games in those franchises, they're like, oh, look, Trevor has some arms dealing missions that are like Smuggler's Run. You know, Franklin has street races that are like Midnight Club. It's like, don't have like 10 or 15 or 20 street races and call that a Midnight Club. It's like, because that's not.
Right.
You know, because Midnight Club would have 100, 200, 300 races and it's its own game. You know, it's like, I don't care if you put a nod in Grand Theft Auto 5 to those games. That's fine, but don't expect that to take the place of those games.
Yeah, don't try to make that like the old game that we used to know and love. Like you said, it's okay to throw out like a little taste of it, you know. But like, can I get the actual game? I want Midnight Club again, because that game would be fantastic. Now, I'd love to do all that same stuff in a higher in a higher fidelity and frame rate now, because that you go back and play those games now, man, those frame rates. they're
you
a
have to
little
play it
rough
on
to play.
Xbox though, like Midnight Club LA. They got it through backwards compatibility. Frame rate's better, but you notice from how much they've evolved the steering now. You go back and play a game like that, and you're like, this steering feels like crap.
Right.
You know, because the steering now is solid. Imagine if they took the steering from GTA 5 and put it in a Midnight Club game that was all about cars, and it wasn't necessarily about robbing banks and you know, all the other stuff that GTA 5 contains. It's just about street racing.
Right.
That would be a phenomenal game, you know.
Well, see, what I've heard a lot of is a lot of car companies don't even want to put their names on games like that anymore because of safety and all of that crazy stuff. Like, if I remember, like, Toyota was like, no.
Yeah.
They were one of the big ones to be like, you cannot use any of our cars in these games anymore. And Forza Horizon 5, that's why it was such a big deal when the Supra was on that game, because no one had seen the Supra for a hot minute before that.
Well, but they give a huge disclaimer at the beginning of the game. You know, don't try any of this stuff. You know, leave the racing to the professionals, all that stuff. You know, they have a huge disclaimer. So it's like, it just, I don't know, it just feels like it's something that if they sat down at a table, they could work through. But I mean, it's just a shame, you know.
Yep, kind of is what it is on that one, bud. But that's what frustrates you. What is a dream come true that could happen to you within gaming? What's something that you would love to see more than anything else?
I think if Dan Hauser challenged Strauss Zelnick to a street fight, and whoever wins takes over take two, and he beat the hell out of him, that would be a dream come true.
That's legit. That works. It's within gaming.
Because you know he could scrap. You know he could scrap, and Strauss Zelnick is just a rich guy, so he's you know, shit out of luck.
Oh man, that's fantastic. I never had an answer like that before, so thank you for providing that for me. What do you enjoy outside of gaming? From what I read upon your like Twitter and whatnot, you really enjoy like writing and obviously like gaming and whatnot. But Can you just give me some more stuff on what you like to do outside of it?
You know, a lot of times I like to spend time with my family, you know, on outings or whatever. take the kids to like movies and stuff. You know, it was a little difficult, obviously, whenever they shut everything down. But you know, we like to try to go out as a family and have those types of experiences. I also like walking my dog sometimes, you know, weather permitting. I'm an action movies guy, so I really like movies. I don't like a lot of the newer ones just because most of the new movies are dog shit. Anymore, it's like if it's not Expendables, if it's not John Wick, if it's not superhero movies, it's just not good. Modern movies, you know. Now you go back to like the 90s, even the 2000s, still had real solid movies, you know. But most of the movies nowadays just they're so lackluster. So I'd say from like 2000, hell, I'd go back to 2000. I'd go to 2010, all the way back to like the 80s. Definitely a movie guy, you know, big time.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the budgets for these movies nowadays are outrageous.
and
Like to produce a good movie, you got to have a lot of money.
well, and it's just because they want all these flashy stunts and all this other shit, and it's like if they had people who were putting together these stunts and doing the screenwriting that were efficient, like super efficient, they'd be able to make a phenomenal movie with like $50 million. They could do it, you know. It just takes not throwing money at the wall and expecting it to, you know, equal a bigger you know, a bigger payout. I mean, you look at DC Comics. They saw what Marvel Comics is doing, but keep in mind, Marvel Comics, Marvel Studios had a huge roadmap as where they wanted to go with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, all these characters. They're intersecting. They have cameos in each other's movies, so it's all intersected, and it builds to this huge Marvel Cinematic Universe. The heads of DC and Warner Brothers just wanted to throw money at the wall and expect to get the same result, and it's like you can't do that, you know. And it's like that lack of leadership in the movie industry is why you have movies now that are just absolute dog shit because the suits are running the show, you know.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah, I
times did you
mean,
hear about Star Wars? How many directors went through that one Star Wars movie? It was like
oof.
7. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And they
That,
just director keep firing them, and it's like stop. It's like stop firing them. Let them do, you know, what they're gonna do with the movie. And if you didn't like them in the first place, don't give them a call in the first place. You don't have to fire them. You
yeah.
know?
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, man, if you knew what you wanted, why'd you hit me up to do it? Like,
Yeah,
what's the point in that? Why did you ask for this sauce if you
yeah,
hate it?
yeah.
Like, it
I
just
get it.
doesn't make
Yep,
any
that's
sense.
right. That's exactly right.
But better yet, what's something that nobody really knows about you that you'd be comfortable with sharing?
That I'm actually from Texas, even though I have no accent.
You're a sub. Yeah, I would have never guessed you were from the
Even
South.
as a kid, I never had an accent.
Would have
I
never
watched a
guessed.
lot of, you know, Mel Gibson is an Aussie to try to help him to lose that accent so he would be more acceptable to American audiences. And, you know, he was one of my favorite actors as a kid, and, you know, Lethal Weapon and other movies that he was in. I would watch him, and that's kind of how I, you know, like that's kind of how I formed ways I say different stuff. So it's like I'm basing the way I'm saying stuff off of the way a linguistic coach taught him to say stuff, if that makes sense.
Kind of.
You know, and it's like everyone in my family, they all speak with a Texas accent, but I don't, because I kind of modeled subconsciously, I guess I modeled the way I talk after, you know, Mel Gibson and other actors that didn't really talk with much of an accent.
You know, I kind of see what you're saying now. Um, I kind of did the same thing within my family, and it wasn't like a Southern accent. It's just more of a natural, like you can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. I'm not talking like I'm not gonna throw any other family members or anything like that under the bus, but a lot of people say I don't talk the way they would anticipate me to talk. Like,
Right.
to be honest, what most people say, "Oh, you're black," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm black. I just have a really, really Midwestern accent, and I'm happy with it because I don't have to reiterate myself. I don't have to tell people what I'm talking about. They just know from the get go, and in return, I usually get along with a lot of different types of people because I sound like Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with that. I like being able to be easily understood by
Yeah, no,
people.
I get it. It's like people hear you from Texas and they think you're, riding a horse and, you got the little straw, in your mouth and that you're wearing a cowboy hat. And they see me and they're like, there's no way you're from Texas. Yeah, it's the same thing. People are thinking one thing and then they hear me talk and they're like, what the hell? That's crazy, Yeah.
Facts. All right, so now we reached pretty much like the end of the episode. So this is the part where I just kind of bullshit, kick back, do whatever, man. You got
Sure.
any questions for me, brother?
Not really. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, are you excited about Stalker 2 at all anymore? Since it got pushed all the way back to like what, December?
Not really. I mean,
Were you
I've
excited
played
for it at all before?
moderately, I guess. I played Metro. I played through the games. They're all right. I'll play Stalker 2 when it comes out, but it's just not very high on my anticipated list. You know.
Okay, so when are you planning on maybe picking up a PS5? Is it like an availability issue thing, or are you
Mm,
just saving up and you just don't really care to have a new
I
console? Or
Probably next year. I want to see if PlayStation releases a newer Slim console. I anticipate that they're going to, but they're not telling everyone right now so that they'll keep buying the normal PlayStations.
okay,
So I want to wait until next year to see if they do.
have
Then
you
of
seen
course
in
if they
person how
don't,
big this motherfucker is?
yeah, yep, pretty tall.
Yeah, that shit is big, bro. Like the one I got over there, just dumb, man. It takes up half my damn spot over there, and the Xbox over there is kind of squeezed in with it.
About as tall as a toddler. Yep.
Bruh, bruh, and heavier than a toddler as well.
Yeah.
Man, I remember taking that motherfucker out of the box the first time, and I was just like, "Why is this so hard?" And I'm sweating.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it looks pretty big. It looks pretty big for a console. Even bigger than the VCR Xbox One.
Oh yes, yes. I actually sat it up, sat it up sideways, and then I sat up a original Xbox sideways because the original Xbox, that motherfucker is big,
Yeah, it's pretty big.
and it's heavy too.
Yeah.
And the PS5 is bigger than all of them.
It's probably bigger by about maybe 8 inches.
Oh, a few at least. I don't know if it's that much, but it got some inches on it. It's
Yeah.
towering over it, that's for sure. But do you have a PC that you play any games on?
Nah, I use my PC just for content creation.
Okay. I was gonna say, because if you were to hear about God of War going to PC as well, would that alter any of your decisions on how you go about getting a PS5, or if you're gonna just update your PC?
No, I'll probably never be a PC gamer unless they just stop making consoles.
What keeps you on consoles though?
It's plug and play essentially.
Plug and play. You don't want to deal with drivers and shit.
No. I mean, it's like I don't play games on my PC, and that's already a pain in the ass having to deal with different apps and stuff. With like I said, with consoles, you just plug it in, you download an update, and you're good to go. That's it.
For real. For
It's a
real.
lot easier.
Are you more on the digital side, or are you a physical collector?
For older stuff, I try to buy physical just because it's not going to be digital. But as far as the newer stuff, and especially because I have a Series S, so it's digital anyway.
Oh yeah, you can't do nothing about that.
So I mean, but I was always a fan of digital anyway, just because you can store all of your games on a hard drive, and you just swap them out. You don't have to carry a stack of 50 games with you if you want to go somewhere.
So if they put the PS5 in front of you and they said digital or physical, which one would you get?
I would probably get a digital.
Really?
Yeah, I know you gotta, it's a little more difficult to swap out the hard drive, but I don't have a problem with that because I would always swap out my PS4 hard drives. I would go on Amazon. I'd buy one of the laptop hard drives that fit the configuration, like a 2 terabyte, and I'd install it. So it was never an issue. I don't have a problem with that. I'll just watch a YouTube video and learn how to do it. So it's all right.
The only thing that would like, cause I have a physical version of the PS5, and I recently went out and purchased Nathan Drake Uncharted. I just went out and purchased Uncharted 4, right? Yeah. And I purchased that for $7. I turned around and bought the $10 upgrade thing that PS5 has for it, and upgraded it to the whatever edition, the essentially director's cut kind of shit. Yeah. And I wouldn't have been able to. I would have had to pay $50 if I didn't have the physical edition of PS5. And so I told my friends what I did. Yeah. And I was like, you guys should go get the copy at like a retro store or something like that. And they're like, oh, but I was literally talking to two people, not forgetting. I must have forgot that they only had digitals. Both of them only had digital PS5. And they're like, well, we can't do that. I was like, well, I'm sorry. And one of them was like, well, I did have this game purchased digitally prior, so it didn't matter. So, yeah. I mean, that's something to think about.
Yeah, you're right, though, about how like they're always running sales on physical games. And if you don't like a physical game, you can sell it back. And you can't do that for digital, obviously. I know that was in the cards at one point for Xbox. During the Xbox One generation, it was something that they said they were thinking about, but I think it probably presented too much red tape they had to go through because it's like they already, you already bought a $60 game from this third-party publisher, and then Xbox says they're going to give you a refund of 10% or 5% or whatever it is, and who knows, it was probably just too hard logistically, for them to pull it off. So you can't get refunds on digital games, but you can on physical. Yeah, so I mean, that's a strong reason to buy physical. And, of course, it's always fun to go out and actually buy a game.
Right.
You see a game and you buy it. Yeah, rather than just buy Xbox gift cards or PlayStation gift cards. It doesn't have the same feeling to it.
Right. I mean, I still get really giddy to this point when I go to the store. I even go to pawn shops and stuff like that and just look at old games and just the feeling of grabbing a game and just like being like, I wonder what's here. That looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna buy it. Yeah. Compared to the lazy feeling you get of sitting on your console and being like, let's go see what that demo looks like on YouTube. Yeah. And then it's like, oh man, that game looks really cool, but you're still on your couch. So like, you didn't feel like you discovered really anything. You just stumbled upon it.
Yep.
So
I get it.
So yeah, whatever. But but man, I don't want to keep you. I don't. What time zone are you in Central?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I mean, it is still 10:30. I do my things kind of late. You got kiddos. You gotta still take care of. You still take care of your kiddos, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I can't even guess what age you are under that hat.
41.
41? Okay.
I had my kids young though. I had my first when I was 25. So.
Okay, that's kind of young, but not too crazy young. It ain't 18.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, I didn't have a job when I was 18. I was in high school, so, I wanted to wait until I could, provide for them somewhat. So when I was in the Army and I was still young enough to have, to be able to play with the kids and interact with them, I said, oh, it's a good time to have kids. That's why I had them young, because my parents had kids in their 30s, and it's like they didn't have the ability to interact with me the same way I can interact with my kids, So it's like I'm 41 and my kids are teenagers, So
that's pretty good though, because they'll be 18 in no time and you'll be kind of free.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how many people I met my age that have kids that are toddlers. Yeah. they're like 39, 40, 41, and they got toddlers. And I'm like, you should have had kids like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you know, because now you're just not going to have the energy. Once you hit 40, your energy starts to go down, and toddlers are full of tons of energy and they run wild.
Right. No, I got a 4-year-old, so I know
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yep. And you want to be young so you can kind of meet that energy, you know?
Cleaning up after her is a nightmare daily.
Yes.
She destroyed my front room just earlier today trying to make a car out of pillows.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, she put my old skydiving helmet on, and she grabbed like a little like circular thing from the kitchen and was using that as a steering wheel, and she grabbed my Nintendo zapper and was shooting me with it. And yeah, it was goofy. The imagination that kids have is just insane.
Yeah.
Because by the time you're, our age, or, I'm 33, you're 41. I mean, by the time you're those age, the imagination it's more or less like, it's a lot harder to really go off into that zone of pretend, and everything's just rainbows and cool and fun.
Yeah, I know.
You usually got bills in the back of your mind, and what I'm gonna buy and stuff like that, or how am I gonna set myself up to even be free for a little while.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, my man. So the last thing I'm gonna ask you to do before we go on ahead and get out of here, so you can go relax. Sure. I want you to describe gaming for me in just 3 words.
It's for everyone.
Fresh. You hit that really fast.
Yeah, well, I prepare myself.
Well, you did a good job, because I've had some people take a minute or two just thinking, just looking up at the sky as if God's gonna come down and give him something.
Yeah.
But anyways, I appreciate anybody that came through to watch. I had a lot of fun over here with Sergeant Steve. You guys can follow him. I have all of his stuff in the description, so you can check him out on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Really cool guy, really relaxing, fun to talk to. And if you want to hit him up for gaming, you can definitely do that kind of stuff too. Just holler at him. I gave you his information. That's your way to find him. But anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. But this is your boy Ham Solo with Steve, and we're out of here. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.